If she wasn't spending summer at Lake Como, she might be shopping at Harrods, playing polo with the boys, or enjoying a spot of tennis with her ladies-in-waiting. And when she wasn't on the arm of the dashing Maharaj Man Singh II, she was winning elections and liberating women of all castes to achieve their dreams through education. Today, we're going to meet the lady who lived out the last days of the Raj and lived on to tell the tale. In today's Masters episode, we're having tea with Maharani Gayatri Devi. Alright, so how was Gayatri Devi so wealthy? Especially when a significant house of loss is so well lit. Let's take a look at how wealth operates in this chart. Where is the big money coming from? Well, we can see that she has Jupiter conjunct Pluto in the first house. In the charts of billionaires, this is one of many classic indicators of big money. Jupiter in strong relationship with Pluto. We can see it in the chart of Warren Buffett, in the chart of Bill Gates, and Rockefeller. Okay, he's got a Jupiter-Pluto opposition. As this was in her first house, she was born into this wealth. Her first lord is in the 11th house, which is another important indicator of big money. But what about the 12th house of loss? It's so well lit. Now, loss came in all forms in her life. Early on in life, it was through fantastical family expenditure. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, her mother had a pet turtle whose shell was encrusted with emeralds. Her uncle killed himself by drowning his sorrows with expensive champagne, and she herself would go on shopping sprees at Harrods from the age of 3 years old. Stories of her family's wealth were so legendary that they served as advertisements, feeding through Venus to her first house of self, which made her more famous, which would in turn feed through Mercury to bring more money and more wealthy friends her way. It's like this trio of houses of gain, loss, and self worked together to keep what feels like a sort of money circus in full swing. What made her so independent? Let's take a look at this clip from one of her last interviews to flesh this point out further.
You have been my only role model and inspiration all my life.
Thank you very much, Simi. That's a great compliment. I really appreciate you telling me that.
But I'd like to know who's been yours.
It's awful, but I can't think of anyone. I admired my mother, but I never wanted to be like her or copy her. I just liked some of the things she did, and haven't really had one.
So did you see that? She was admired by many, but she herself didn't look up to anyone. I think this is a key part of her personality that made her do lots of things. It made her refuse the rules of the Purdah system, and it helped her inspire other women who wanted freedom from it to do the same. I would say all this, along with her career in politics, shows a very independently minded person. And this is all coming from her moon in Aquarius. And this moon is in the sign of, right? So yes, it's Aquarius, the humanitarian, but it's seated in the house of authority and political leadership as well. Why did the New York Times say there was a dark ending to her dazzling life? Okay, this line features in an article about her life titled Fairy Tale with a Dark Ending. And I believe the headline and the last line of this article, where it says dark ending to her dazzling life, these lines are perfect descriptors of this particular Rahu-Ketu axis. Now, if you run this axis, please do not be worried. We have to take into account lordships, divisional charts, and so on. There's lots of things I'm factoring in here. But for Gayatri Devi, it was in her destiny to experience the fall of an empire and significant losses, starting with the loss of her regal status from 1947 onwards. Interestingly, 1947 is the year when Rahu's Lord Mars matured in her chart. She was 28 years old. She spent several months in prison from July 1975, when this particular line was active, and she later experienced the tragic loss of her son in Feb 1997, when this exact line was active again. But in a general sense, Rahu in a challenging sign in the 6th house can bring some great difficulties into a person's life. She was listed as one of Vogue's 10 most beautiful women of all time. Can we see her beauty in the chart? Yes, we can see beauty in a chart. When I read about this, when I was doing the research for this episode, I immediately thought, oh, she must have strong Rohini Nakshatra. And when I looked at the chart, I was like, there it is. She's got, I think it's Ketu, in Rohini Nakshatra there. Now, Ketu is the body without the head. And Ketu is often likened to Mars as well. And Mars rules physicality. So even without seeing pictures, one could be quite sure that this person would be magnetic and very beautiful. As with any master, there is always so much more to say, but I'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.